Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fix My Fees podcast, where merchant services is so boring. I bring on interesting people and pick their brain instead so that you guys can learn something. I am your host, Tavious Washington, and today with me, we have somebody that I wish I remembered to ask how to pronounce the name, but I'm still going to try myself first. But she is what's like to call an intuitive consultant. She's a leadership coach, an author, and a visibility mentor, someone who's used like data-backed logic to help executive, politicians, and really, really high-profile individuals in their organization build trust, right? And these people who need trust in order to do their jobs. And throughout her career, you can see that I saw like you were photographed with like Nelson Mandela and the Dalai Lama. So like you really are out there a lot. So I want everybody to please give a warm welcome to, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, Siddiqi.
Yes. Siddiqi, it rhymes with cheeky or freaky, depending on the day and the situation.
Or the song.
Or the song. I mean, lest we take ourselves too seriously, right, Tavious?
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on here. So I did see, there's a lot of things that are going on, and I want to talk about the high profile side. But one thing that I saw is that you are on a mission to help 10,000 women, right? And what is that about? And like, what are you doing to kind of start that movement?
I love that you brought that up. I am on a mission to help 10,000 women leaders change the trajectory of leadership, especially in corporate America and on boards. And the way I'm looking to do that is to bring intuition in as a language that gets integrated in their decision-making process. So that we bring, you've heard women's intuition. Well, women are actually hardwired more for intuition than men. We can get into that. But my goal is to support high-level female leaders to tune in and tap in and turn on their intuition in high-pressure, high-stakes situations. Because what I've seen, the evidence is that when we bring our intuition into the process, we get radically different outcomes than if we're just relying on data, logic, and these days, AI.
So I did see that because I saw that you had something called the Siddiqi method that had intuitive learning. Is that a specific length behind that? Like, how long do you work with people during that side of it?
First of all, Siddiqi, just so I don't sound like, it's all about me. Siddiqi is a name that was given to me by my parents, who were medical professionals in Berkeley, California during the 60s, probably smoking something when they named me. And Siddiqi means the friend that tells the truth. And so I see our intuition as that inner voice that's always guiding us and telling us the truth. And so that's how I got to the Siddiqi method. In the beginning, back 15 years ago, people would just hire me as a strategic advisor. And they would ask me to they didn't even have a language for it. Do whatever it is you do. Just give me the answer. And they would come to me and I would give them the answers based on my intuition. And then they would go off and do it and have these amazing results. And then they'd come back and then they'd tell their friends. And they would put me on retainer so that they could call me 24/7 so that I could tune in and tap in with my own intuition and give them answers. And after about 10 years of that, I thought it's not enough. I'm not ever going to make enough of an impact just doing one-on-one. I need to really teach them how to trust their intuition and develop it in a way that they don't need me anymore. So my goal became to work myself out of a job and to help them find the answers for themselves, find their inner Siddiqi. So that, the basic program is it's a weekend workshop. And then we go to an 8-week program where we really learn the language of intuition and how to access it on demand and the skills. There's a skill set. There's a toolkit to amplify your already innate levels of intuition. And then best case scenario, they join me for my year-long program where you get a board of directors and you're accessing intuition for yourself and for others. And there's a whole kind of foundational trusted container of a community of people that are developed, these high level leaders that are developing their intuition, and they have a safe place to practice, to fail forward with their intuition. Like this out in the real world, the stakes are high for integrating your intuition into these big decisions, but we try to create a container where everybody can practice with themselves, with each other. So, yeah. And then there's retreats. We do super high-end retreats. Sorry, what?
No, I'm saying I didn't think about like being able to practice or hone intuition. I just thought it was like something you have or maybe hone through experiences, but I never thought of it as like something you could practice.
I know most people don't. I say it's a muscle. They call it, the sixth sense. So you can learn to heighten your senses. You can learn to train your bicep, and the intuition is there. It's just that nobody's ever thought to train it, and specifically for business. But if you look at like Shark Tank, do you ever watch Shark Tank?
I love Shark Tank.
I love Shark Tank too. They refer to their intuition so much of the time. In fact, there's a Forbes article with the sharks on their intuition. And they were talking about how they immediately know yes or no. They immediately have a gut sense about things. And then they ask more questions to get more data to back it up. But all of them have said on numerous occasions, I just trust my gut on these things. And then I follow it with the questions that would back up what my gut said. And so that's the best case scenario, is that you go with your gut first, and then you look to data and logic in the spreadsheets to back up what you already knew.
I like that. And so it's instead of always going, well, I don't know, let me see everything first. It's like pick something and then verify that your intuition was right. And that gets you a better understanding of your gut. Well, what do people usually get wrong about intuition then?
I love that question. Thank you. What do people usually get wrong about intuition? They ignore it. If I had, $1 for everybody that said, yeah, I had this situation and I had this gut feeling, or I had this spidey sense, or I had the goosebumps or the tingle down my spine, or I had this flash of insight, or the voice in my head that said, do this, don't do this. And then I ignored it because I didn't know where it was coming from. And so why? And then I went on and I made a different decision, and the cost was really high. I have one client that came to me on the wake of she woke up one morning. She just had this voice in her head that said, you've got to drop this investment. She went to her husband and she's like, honey, we got to drop this stock. And he was like, why? We're so heavily invested. It's doing really well. And she's like, I just have this feeling. I have this sinking feeling. And we just need to drop it. And he's like, well, I can tell that you're having feelings about it, honey. Why don't you go talk to the financial advisor? And so she did. And the financial advisor said, well, we can't. Why would we drop a stock just based on your feeling? You guys have made so much money about it. And she's like, I don't know. I can't explain it.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is we can't explain it and justify it to anybody else. I don't know. She said, I don't know how I know. I just know that we should sell it. Well, she got talked out of it. 2 weeks later, to the day, it was at the beginning of the Me Too movement. There was a humongous sexual abuse scandal with the CEO of the company, and the entire company collapsed, and they lost $3.2 million overnight in their investment.
Jeez.
And I call that the I knew it tax. I knew it, but I didn't follow it. And the price is high. It's the date you went on, and the guy looked nice and he sounded nice, but something didn't feel right and you ignored it and you ended up in a relationship with a narcissist. It's the feeling that you have about your partners. I think there's something wrong with their heart, but you can't justify it. You don't know how you know. And then they have a heart attack. It's like our intuition pops up all over the place, and it's like whack-a-mole. We're trying to knock it down because it just doesn't make sense. And so that's the biggest mistake, is A, not recognizing that what you're experiencing is intuition, and B, not building a data set that allows you to have a track record that hardwires into your nervous system. Oh, when I get that random thought, it's always right. Or when I get that goosebumps when I meet someone, it's telling me something. And so the first thing that we have to do is help people understand you actually do have this, and it's talking to you all the time. But are you listening?
That is so interesting. So my mind went to like, it wants to ask you, so is the the intuition trigger, the feeling, is that different for everyone? And can you have, I guess, pseudo ones where it's like, it's not really your intuition is this, but the other is just, I don't know the word for it. I don't know what do you understand what I'm trying to ask? It's like,
well, I think you're exemplifying the problem in and of itself, which is we don't have a language for it. And when you don't have a language for it to identify it and describe it, then it's just landing as this benign random thing that you're experiencing, and most people never take the time to quantify it. And one of the people that I just absolutely idolize is Professor Joel Pearson. He's a researcher in New South Wales, and he wrote a book called The Intuition Toolkit. And he was literally the first scientist ever that studied what is this intuition thing, and is there a way to actually develop it? And guess what? Yes, there is. There are scientifically proven things that you can do to develop it. And the first one is identify it. So I always start with that in my curriculum of teaching. It's like, how does that sixth sense land? And we actually have a quiz in the workshop. I have people take a quiz, and it identifies very accurately, this is how you receive your intuition. And once we've identified it, then we can work on continually recognizing it. And one of the very unsexy scientific tools is documentation. And so we have a way for the people in the class to document. I had this gut sense when I met this, new person on the board, and it was either positive or negative. And I documented it, and I documented when I had it. And then, 2 weeks, did I take an action based on that feeling? No, I didn't. I just sat back and I waited. 2 weeks later, we found out that he lied on his resume and that he actually wasn't the candidate that he said. So yes, it was accurate. So it's just as simple as that. Or I'm on my way to work and I get this little voice that says, go left. I usually go right, but I went left. And later on, I get to work and I find out that there was a major accident that I avoided. Write that down on the spreadsheet. So there's so many ways to identify it and to work with it, but we have to go about it just like you would the gym. Like, you have to set a time aside to start developing it. You have to build the reps of recognition of it. And then you can start to rely on it when you're lifting heavy things because you've built the muscle.
That is cool because, like, for instance, with me, like when I think about me joining Fix My Fees, I had other opportunities that if other people in my position would have done, they would absolutely have taken that. But something in my gut told me to take this. And now I get to do these podcasts, and it has been the most fun I've had in so long. But right before this, I chose the wrong one when my gut was telling me, not to do it. But I was like, hey, but everything else makes sense. And I did it. And so it's like, it's interesting hearing you talk about it because it's like, wow, I understand both sides of when it doesn't work in your favor and when it works in your favor. But I also have never written it down or never said it to understand, was it my gut or was it just something feeling that I had because of something? I never really quantified it, as you said. I think that's really cool.
And you asked that question. Let me just answer it. How do you know if it's your intuition or something else? Well, usually your intuition is the Siddiqi. It's the still small friend telling you the truth, whispering in your ear. It doesn't shout. It doesn't yell. It doesn't give you anxiety. It doesn't get you wrapped up in your thoughts. It's just this like, ba-doom. It's a blip on the radar. And it doesn't get loud until there's danger involved. Another one of my mentors is Gavin DeBecker. He wrote a book called The Gift of Fear. And he has done a lot of research on ignoring your intuition and the cost of ignoring your intuition. And so he's worked primarily with women. He now works in corporate, but he has worked with victims of abuse, and sexual assault. And he helps them to get out of the trauma loop by going back and identifying, oh, I did know that I shouldn't. The elevator door opened. It was late at night. There was a guy in there. My immediate thought, the thing that dropped in was, I shouldn't get into the elevator with this man I didn't know. And then I overrode it with my people pleasing. Well, I don't want to seem judgmental and I don't want to hurt his feelings. And so you get into the elevator with the stranger and worst case scenario. And what he says is we're the only mammals on the planet. Like all animals have instinct hardwired in them, fight, flight, freeze. And we're the only mammals on the planet that override it.
That makes sense.
And he's like, there's no other mammal on the planet that would get that voice, that would get that sensation and then go towards the danger and go into the fear. He's like, it just doesn't exist in nature. And so that's part of the issue, especially in leadership. You have so many people talking in your ear about doing this. You're surrounded by strategic advisors, but most leaders, what makes them excel is their innate sense of knowing. And if we can amplify that, if we can turn the volume up on it, if we can help them recognize sooner that they're probably really successful at what they do because they do have this small voice within, how can you tap into it more reliably? And that's the other thing that I'll just throw in here is most of us experience intuition just randomly. And the goal of the training is to go from random to repeatable, from repeatable to accessible, so that you can actually access it on demand in the moment, not just wait for that feeling to just randomly arrive. And that's a game changer for people.
So you're saying that if you hone it enough, you can, in a moment of time, like where a decision is to be made, tap into your intuition to make the best decision?
Yep. You can train yourself to tap into intuition on demand. And it's extraordinary. And I've seen it more and more and more with my clients, their ability to use the tools to amplify the intuition and develop it, some of which I learned from the Navy SEALs. And I do want to talk about that because this is not just some woo-woo, crystal store incense burning stuff. This is real life methodology that a lot of organizations are using in some way, shape, or form. They're just not calling it intuition. And they're not calling it intuition training. They're calling it something else, but they're still doing it. So this is, I think, honestly, Tavious, with all the outsourcing of our insights to AI, there's going to be at some point a backlash because AI doesn't have feelings. It might talk to you like it has feelings. It might talk to you like it has empathy. And you might go to it and it might give you really great insights, but there's never, ever, ever going to be a time when, unless we're implanted with it, which, maybe that's coming. Maybe it's coming. Probably it is.
Yeah, not a lifetime.
There's never going to be a shortcut or a substitute for the hard wiring of intuition.
Yeah, I forgot about with AI. I had to. It will try to sound emotional. I had to tell it, prompt it, please stop that. Just it's weird.
Cut it out. You're not my friend.
You're right. Stop. Just answer the question. Stop it. So I definitely understand. I never thought of it as something that you could tap into and use it. Okay, so I understand how people may have their gut react in dangerous situations or relationship things, but how does it not even on a day-to-day, how does it come up in business for someone who's running a business, growing a business, or even just, an employee inside the business? How can that show up there?
It shows up in so many ways. And this is why I'm on a mission to bring it into the forefront as a language, because a lot of times in business, you have leadership and then you have everybody, down below you and everybody has a certain rank. How does it show up? It's the person that's the lowest rung on the ladder that looks at the spreadsheet and has a funny feeling about it and thinks to themselves, has that, maybe it's a sinking feeling in their gut, or has that flash, like a movie insight of something bad happening, the numbers tanking. I'm using real life examples. And they're so scared to go to senior leadership because they say to themselves, what do I know? It's not my place. I just happen to spot this, And if we had a common language around it and we were able to honor it and let everybody in the room tap into their intuition and bring it forward without questioning it, without having to justify it, then what would happen is think of NASA in the whole O-ring scenario. Do you remember that? That was one of NASA's biggest failures was the O-ring. And there are articles about it where they went back, they interviewed the scientists, and all of them were we knew it was going to fail. We actually brought it to senior leadership. They had a timeline. They had a schedule. They had budgets. They didn't have time to rethink it. And so despite our sense that something wasn't going to work, they pushed it forward.
Right.
And we all know the disaster of the O-rings and the lives, the time, the energy, the money, and the faith in the organization that cost. That happens all day, every day in corporate America. It's the person that you ignored when they said something doesn't feel right on the spreadsheet. It's the interview hire that looked really good on paper, and then everybody signed off on it, and nobody said, I had a funny feeling about this person. And 2 years later, this person has wreaked absolute havoc and has taken the company to task and has sued them and has created a major crisis in the company. Because when you go back and you ask everybody that in human resources, well, I knew it. I had a feeling about that person. And so it costs us time, energy, money. There's a real bottom line cost to everybody in the organization not listening and not having a language and permission to bring it forward and talk about it. At senior leadership level, it's, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to risk my reputation by bringing up something that I don't know how I know it. But what I've seen as possible is when you build enough of an internal track record, you can then bring that forward and translate real time those intuitive hits that you're getting.
Right.
And when you have enough of a track record with your team and in leadership, people then come to you like the sharks because they have a really good gut feeling. And that now becomes your superpower in business. But you have to recognize it. You have to train it. You have to learn to document it, build a track records so that you can leverage it.
I love that. Yeah, I love the idea of bringing the language around it. It kind of takes what you already know is real and makes it real for everyone else. It's sort of like how the subconscious became real, right? First, subconscious was like, I did the thing without doing and I did it without thinking. And it was like, no, you do this so often, your subconscious just knows to do it. And that's how you were driving home from work. And then you're home and you're like, I don't remember the last 8 minutes of my drive. How did I get it? It just took over. But if you told someone that, they would, like, without the word subconscious, without the language, if you told someone, yeah, I was just driving and I have no idea how I got here, they would take you to the hospital, right?
They'd be like, are you stroking out?
Right, exactly. But the moment the word subconscious became more normalized and talked about movies and TV shows and things, now it's just like, oh, I subconsciously did it without even thinking. And so I understand why you want to bring more language around it so that when you say tap into your intuition, people don't go, that's it. If there was a word behind that, people would just automatically do it. You know what I mean? They will automatically believe it. Or when you're in the office and someone says, what's your intuition on that? And so when you give someone that without any context, they would be more likely to believe it than to go, that's just weird. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're doing a little bit backwards from this, but how did you even get to the point of deciding that this was your route to understand, like, I want to learn? Cause you even mentioned some of the people you looked up to that started with intuition. How did you know you wanted to get into this and start to not only develop it for yourself, but go, no, I'm going to help everyone else learn it. Not only help everyone else learn it, I want to have a language known around it. How did that even come up?
I mean, it was all my intuition, honestly, but it wasn't obvious. I spent 30 years as a photographer, a professional photographer. I was the first female on staff at Target in photography.
Nice.
And then I went on to be the first female for the Associated Press and posted overseas. And then the first female on staff at Mayo Clinic, and just, it went on and on and on. And what I was really good at was kind of sussing out these extraordinary opportunities that I wasn't necessarily qualified for, but I would follow my intuition and I would end up in the right place at the right time to have these incredible opportunities. Like, so for instance, right in the beginning of my career, I had just left corporate fashion photography and I got this incredible opportunity to photograph the Dalai Lama. And I wasn't even a journalist at that point, But I ended up there because this still small voice within my inner Siddiqi said, go here, do this. And I was like, why? It makes no sense to do that. But I knew through a lot of failures of not listening to do it. And I ended up photographing the Dalai Lama for Time magazine. And there was nothing on my resume that would have said, yeah, Siddiqi Ray is the person that even has the right camera equipment to do that job. And so I started to string together this incredible resume and then I ended up working for the Navy SEALs, doing underwater photography for them. And each and every time I was just stupefied. How did I end up here? And I would follow these little breadcrumbs of, oh, I was sitting here in this cafe in this moment and I had this thought that I should go to Hawaii. And then I talked to a friend about it and she's like, oh, I have a friend in Hawaii that you should visit. And then I get to Hawaii and I'm like, I should scuba dive. And I tell that to the friend that I'm visiting. And she's like, oh my God, I'm going on a dive tomorrow morning. And it ends up being with the Navy SEALs. And they hear about, she just got back from India and photographing the Dalai Lama for Time magazine. And the next day they're like, hey, can you do underwater photography for us? We have this project that we need to do. And it's just like, it was always those seemingly random little voices, but I got really good at following them. And that's how I got to work with four members of the Kennedy family, and just these extraordinary, almost like larger than life situations. And I would sit and scratch my head and be like, none of them are repeatable. They seem so random.
Right.
And it was when I started to write my book that I was like, what is the common thread that links, co-writing a book with Deepak Chopra and all of these, Nelson Mandela, and photographing the Dalai Lama 15 times on 3 different continents. And none of those 15 times were related. None of them were like, oh, she photographed him before, we'll hire her now. I just kept ending up in these situations that were kind of beyond me to orchestrate. And what I realized was that it was my intuition. And because my parents were hippies and doctors, during the summers, starting when I was 10, everybody else was going off to like summer camp to learn sailing. And we were going to this place called the Edgar Cayce Institute. And it just so happens that Edgar Cayce was, is the most documented psychic of all time. He did 79,000 in psychic readings. And so my parents, who are hippies, are like, let's go learn how to meditate. Let's go learn how to telepathically talk with dolphins. Let's go meditate in pyramids, just like totally wacky stuff. And that was my childhood of like, granola, co-ops, ashrams, talking to dolphins, talking to flower fairies, and like, just this whole like crazy, they were doctors by day and like hippies by night. And in somewhere in my career, Tavious, I started using my intuition without even knowing it. And then it just kind of snowballed. And when I finally, people started paying me. I mean, it started really randomly. Like people would call me up and be like, my cat is sick. Do you have a hit on it? And I'd be like, oh yeah, it's da da da. And they'd be like, okay, thanks. And then one day, like 25 years ago, a check arrived in the mail for an extraordinary amount of money. And I was like, what is this? And in the memo section, it said cat psychic. And it was one of my friends had been calling me for years about hits on her cat and paid me. And then people came to me for medical intuition and they came to me for relationship things. So it was kind of like my little side hobby until it wasn't, until right. COVID. And COVID was the thing that changed everything for me and for my business. And it was, I don't want to take up too much time, but I just had this sense in March of 2020. You asked the difference between like the screaming voice and the anxiety and the fear and the intuition. I had never experienced my intuition like this before. I would sit down and meditate and feel totally calm. And I have a whole practice around just tuning in. And I would get up from it and be hit with this like shock wave of terror, like a little bunny rabbit shivering in the back of the cage, like, oh my God. And I was like, what is this? And I do what I tell my clients now to do, get curious. Don't dismiss it. Just get curious. Just start observing it, start naming it. And day after day, Tavious, the feeling kept getting louder and more terrifying. And on the fourth day, I was talking to my fiance who is from New Zealand. He was in New Zealand visiting his mom. And I'm like, don't come back to LA. Something is about to happen, something really big. And I don't want to be here. And he was like, don't be hysterical. He dismissed it right away because I didn't have enough of a track record yet for him to be like, oh, this is one of those things that Siddiqi does. We need to listen. Long story short, after listening to me amp up, this is important, I've got to listen. He sent me a plane ticket for the next morning. I shuffled my dog off to my neighbor. I took a suitcase. I had a big, beautiful studio loft space for my photography that we were living in. I locked it up. I got on a plane and it ended up that I was on the last plane that New Zealand let in before they closed their borders. And so all of a sudden I'm in New Zealand visiting my now mother-in-law. And I was stuck here for 2.5 years, during which time someone stole all of my stuff from my studio. And the minute I heard that it was all gone and saw the empty space, I immediately had this intuitive hit of, you weren't listening, you weren't putting down the camera. You don't need the camera to show people what you see. You just need to tell them what you see. And and that was it. That's when people started coming to me, putting me on retainer. It was scary at first because I had an identity. Like I knew myself to be this world-renowned photographer, and putting down the camera was terrifying, but COVID did that for me. It took away the option of doing face-to-face photo shoots, and it put me in this place of, are you going to really listen? Are you going to do what you tell your clients to do? Let go of control and step into the unknown and experience these unprecedented results. And so that's how I got here.
I love it. Love it. Especially when you have something that you were so good at with photography, but being forced into the notion and then going with it. You didn't try to, you know what? I'm going to take it online. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Some people.
I did. No, I did try all those shenanigans. I did. And I had 35 photo shoots that people had booked and paid for from all over the world. And it was a disaster during COVID. A disaster. Talk about fix my fees. I got kicked off of several payment platforms because people were just doing chargebacks for all their photography fees. And so I almost totally lost the plot on that during COVID of, people were panicking. They wanted their money. They're like, I don't know when you're going to be back from New Zealand to do my photo shoot. I couldn't promise anything. It was a disaster. Financially, it was a huge, terrifying time. And also I had been paid for my intuition, but I was like, it was nothing compared to what I was making in photography. And so I was just like, I don't know how this is going to work. But I think when we're driven by something greater than ourselves to something, that when we listen, things flow. And when we resist, things get harder and more, just more difficult. And I hadn't been listening for years, because when I went back and really sat with, the breadcrumbs, it was 10 years that I'd been like, no, it couldn't be this. No, I intuitively knew that there was something more, but I was just like, yeah, but it couldn't be that, because nobody would pay for that. Even though I had a lot of evidence that people actually did pay me, I don't know. It just seemed so intangible, and I just couldn't figure out how would I ever make that work.
I don't know. When that last track, man, my brain, it was like you were in my own head about something that I've been going through for the past probably decade with public speaking. And I have not put myself out there in just anything in any way. And I just finally did it. But it was 10 years of just I don't know how I'm going to get paid to just run my mouth, but I am. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Right.
Know how, but figure it out, right? And I kept putting it aside until it was perfect.
Tavious, that's that's the signature of I don't know how. And so if we train ourselves to stop And it's counterintuitive. I don't know how. I don't know when. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just know what. Do this. It makes no sense. But when you really start to tune in, and one of the things the Navy SEALs taught me was to get into a state of flow through breath, calm down your nervous system, get into some synchronicity, get into a state of coherence where your heart wave and your brain wave and your gut are all on the same frequency and wavelength. You have access to a place of resourcefulness in yourself that you don't have when you're in that, like, well, how am I going to get there? When you slow it all down and you get into cohesion, then anything is possible. And you start to notice the synchronicities and you start to follow the synchronicities. And before you know it, you're in a position where you're living a life beyond your wildest dreams, something that you couldn't have even thought to aspire to, nothing that was on a vision board or your goals list. You're like, I do not know how I got here, but here I am and I'm living a life beyond my wildest dreams. That's the goal, if you ask me. That's where your intuition can take you. And so you get that still small, that prompt. So what you're telling me is like the public speaking, it's a prompt. And either we listen early or we pay the price of not listening. Like I could do a whole nother podcast of the cost of not listening on just the disasters that I've experienced and that other people have experienced not listening, the price, that I knew it tax. So if anything, I hope that this is a cautionary tale of it gets painful when we don't listen, and inspiration of when you do listen, you then literally, people talk about manifestation. You want to manifest, listen to your intuition. That's how you manifest. It's the quickest way to manifest. And then there you are in this incredible position where you get to do podcasts because you had that inner prompt.
Yeah, I finally listened to it.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, to bring this full circle, what do you wish more people knew about intuition? And that is, could be normal person, it could be business leaders, just people in general. What do you wish they knew more about that you don't feel like they really know?
That your intuition is always working for you and never, ever, ever against you. And if you think it's working against you, then it's not your intuition. That still small voice within really is your best friend. And it's always guiding you and directing you to something that's so much bigger than you could even imagine for yourself. And if you just learn some of the simple mechanisms to tune in and to turn it on and to trust it, you will be amazed. Prepare to be amazed. That's what I want people to know.
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for bringing so much insight into that. And so now we have to turn into the last part. How are you outside of it? You spend so much time helping other people, honing their intuition so that they can be these high achievers. They can be the people that they want to be, the leaders that they want to be, whether it be in business and life. So what do you do outside of helping other people? What do you do outside of your work? When you're just doing yourself.
I have an amazing husband. We're living here in New Zealand, and he is my business partner. And we love to go to the gym. We just tortured ourselves with a Pilates class the other day. It was hilarious. We were like, oh my God, it's like the worst torture. I love experiencing nature. I have two adorable little puppies who are my furry children. And I love connecting with people. I love this global Zoom thing that we have. I think that was the biggest bonus of COVID, is that we learned how to connect heart to heart with people all over the world. And I just love connecting with people. So outside of it, I'm pretty introverted. I'm very introverted, and I just spend a lot of time just doing self-care and things that make me happy and that I love.
Is part of that love good food?
I am a grill master. We are, just side note, I suffer from really, really chronic debilitating migraines, and no medication touched it. And finally some neurologist was like, why don't you go on a keto diet? And so I have become a master of the grill. In New Zealand has amazing grass-fed beef and lamb. And I am I am so good at that grill. And here in New Zealand, they have these really great salts. Like there's smoked garlic salt. And so I'm really good at food. I'm
Yeah,
super good at food. If you're ever in New Zealand, stop by for a barbecue.
definitely will. Definitely will. I love food. I am a big foodie. I'm always trying to try something new. I love cooking. I'm a steak person on
Okay,
the grill.
what's your favorite? What's your favorite?
My favorite food? I would say, man, it has always been steak, right? Because I love cooking steaks. If you ever come to my place, that's what I'm gonna cook to show off for you and show you, you know what I mean? I always, I cook it for the business people. I cook it for my friends, cook it for my family. It's a steak, but man, my world has opened up so much for so long that I like, if someone was like, well, what would you want right now? It would probably be poke. Poke is usually like that one thing out of nowhere that I just crave, like some poke or something like along those lines where it's just like a bunch of nice, refreshing flavors. Sometimes I'll need the meats of like Korean barbecue, but like at any time I'll take the refreshment of a nice, good poke bowl.
I had the best poke bowl here at a restaurant. They don't call it a poke bowl, but that's what it was. They call it ceviche. And it was really fresh New Zealand fish. And it had lemongrass coconut sauce that was just like, and something else in it. I didn't know what it was. They wouldn't tell me what it was, but some flavor that I feel like is from Mars. I've never tasted it. And then these beautiful little, the sculpted rice crackers that you sometimes get
Yes.
at high end. It was mind blowing. I was like, where did this even come from? I've never even tasted anything like this. And it was like, I thought about it for days. I was just like, gosh, that was such an interesting experience. You think that you've experienced it all. And
Yes.
then something out of the blue, out of the clear blue sky comes and surprises you.
And you're
That's
just
your
like,
intuition.
wow.
And that's
Wow.
food. Yeah.
Like me, yeah, like me with most recently mackerel. I was like, why is this good? It doesn't have a name that tastes good, but anyways. Oh, thank you so much, Siddiqui. This has been so much fun. I know I told you I was looking forward to this. It is just such an interesting topic. It is something that people talk about or know about as far as from the word, but I don't think enough people are thinking about it. And there's a difference between using the word and actually thinking about it outside of the time it happens, right? When it happens, you're like, I should have listened to my intuition. But how often do people talk about it when you're not in that situation, when the bad thing doesn't show up or the good thing doesn't show up? How often do you hear about anyone honing it? Never heard of it. Right? How often do you hear about people tapping into it? Never heard of that. And I just think that those are the kinds of things that kind of change the way that you think. And then like 30 years from now, they're like, yeah, well, that's my intuition. Like we all know that. And it's like,
Oh,
that was a time that wasn't normal, right? And I just love that.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on here and talking.
And hey, if anybody wants to just see what your base level of intuition is, there's a free quiz on my website that just gives you an intuitive IQ score and a little report on like, hey, here's how you can begin to develop it. So that's just sitting there on the front page of siddiqiray.com. And I think it's really useful. And then, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram. I try to post a lot of videos about just little tips of things to be aware of and how to begin to develop it. Because of course, this is my world. This is what I love. I am on a mission to make it a common language.
I love that so much. Yeah. And so people can go to your website. Is that the best way? Do you have other ways of getting in touch with you?
I mean, I'm on Instagram. It's all Siddiqi Ray all day, every day. It's Siddiqi Ray. So there's, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. The quiz is on my website. So please take it and then we'll be in conversation. And if anybody has any questions, honestly, I'm really accessible. I answer all my emails. I answer all my texts myself because I'm always tuning in and wanting to support people. So any questions you have, please follow up, find me. I'm here to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to put that in the bio. And if anyone's like listening to this while they drive like me, it is Siddiqiray, Siddiqi Ray, right? That way your mind can think of it later on, if you don't come back to the video. But I want to thank you one more time so much for this. This has been so much fun. Thank you for having me. I mean, thank you for being on.
Thank you for
thank you for having me. But thank you so much again.
Thank you, Tavious. Thank you. It's been an honor. It really has. I feel like it's such an honor to be able to talk about this. So thank you. Thanks for creating that space.
You are welcome. And thank you to all who are listening. I really appreciate you listening in. And I think if you're listening, I say fill out the quiz. I'm going to go fill out the quiz after this. I'm going to get the missus to fill out the quiz. I think it's just something that we can do. Just have fun with it, right? Everyone should take the quiz. But if there's more to it, if you are wanting to learn more of it, hone it, I would say go ahead and reach out. Siddiqi will do her best to, help you navigate if it's something you should do right now, if it's later, walk you through that and having that expert there. So thank you all for watching and listening. You can like and subscribe. And if you have an interesting business like Siddiqi, please reach out to me at Tavious at fixmyfees.com. I would love to have a conversation with you too. Thank you all and good night.